Good morning. It's a challenge to be here on the first week of January, but we're here. I am Reverend Dan King. I am not Ed Prue. Your minister, Reverend Ed, is sick today. He called me yesterday morning and said, I just don't think I'll make it through a whole service without coughing my head off. So he asked me to be with you this morning. Our worship associate this morning, however, is an experienced Emerson member, Ken McLeod. We're pleased that he's put this service together with Reverend Ed. And I'm just here to move it from the red zone across the finish line. That's all. Thanks to all who are here in the room or online. We appreciate your attendance. The announcements this morning, which I've been asked to share with you. This month, Emerson folks are starting a multi-week religious education class for adults in the usual 10 a.m. time slot on Sundays. The course is called New Year, New You, to help deepen your understanding of yourself based on an ancient Greek and Roman philosophy called Stoicism. So you are requested to look online at the e-blast for further details. Obviously, Pat Smith and her cohort will be there every Sunday morning at 10 o'clock. And I'm sure you will enjoy and be stimulated by reading about Seneca and Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, great Stoics. The Finance Committee is asking all of us to remember that our pledge to the place you call your spiritual home is very important. If it's possible, there is a deep desire and hope to finish collecting the 2024 pledges as soon as possible. If you haven't fulfilled your 2024 pledge to Emerson quite yet, please do so as soon as you can. Your volunteer leaders understand that all members expect to follow through with their pledge commitment, but if situations arise out of your control and compromise an ability to pay on the shorter term, for planning purpose, please let them know if a situation has arisen for you. An email or a call to the office would be very helpful. After the service today, everyone is welcome to get together for coffee and conversation. However, lunch bunch today will be postponed because of a budget listening session with great PowerPoint presentation by Hillary Ritz and Carol and other folks on the Finance Committee. So all are welcome to stay for a few minutes to see the great PowerPoint presentation. Any visitors, however, are welcome to come to coffee or to the weekly lunch bunch when it is held. Those who would like to go to somewhere after the listening session for the budget are welcome to do that, and the designated spot happens to be Beck's Prime, which is the most convenient place I can think of. So if you will be invited to fill out a yellow visitor card in the back of the pew if you are a visitor, and you would like to have, Ed likes to say, only 2 emails a week informing you of things that are going on at Emerson. And if you place that yellow card with your contact information in one of the offertory baskets in the front or the back of the sanctuary, that'd be great. We should mention that it's still officially not the 12th day of Christmas yet, so we do have the wonderful Christmas tree that Emerson folks put together to celebrate the season, the greenery. But all are welcome to Emerson, and I feel welcome to Emerson myself. So thank you for your presence and your engagement with whatever is going on at Emerson. And I hope this static will go away in a little bit. Please enjoy our prelude as we formally begin the service today. Thank you.
Great As we gather in community, we look within ourselves and to each other for strength, restoration, and inspiration, so that as we journey together, we catch the spark of the eternal Spirit, and from that spark, we light our chalice flame. Lighting that chalice flame symbolizes to all that the spirit of our congregation is strong, and that our will to transform ourselves and the world is also strong. We light the flame with gratitude. We light the flame in memory of all who have gone before, in honor of all who are here now, and with joy for all who are yet to come. As Beverly Joyce lights our chalice flame here in the sanctuary, I invite those of you at home to light a candle or chalice of your own. This morning and for the month of January, our chalice lighting words come from the 39th President of these United States, Jimmy Carter, who died in December at the age of 100. Please join me in reading these words together as they appear on the screen. You just have to have a simple faith. Sounds profound. As we work to create a beloved community, we welcome all who would join us in building a better world with more love, more justice, and more peace. We welcome all who would join us in growing in mind, heart, and spirit. We welcome all who would join us in tearing down systems of oppression of all kinds. We welcome all who would join their purposes to ours in a loving spirit of right relationship. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, wherever you find yourself on your life's journey, whichever your pronouns, whether you've walked in or rolled in or dialed in, whomever you love, you are welcome here.
This church marks special events in the life of the congregation, both within and beyond its walls, especially with the lighting of a candle in joy and remembrance in the passing of very important people in our civilization and in our faith. As Ken mentioned in the chalice lighting reading, President Jimmy Carter died last week in Georgia at the age of 100. I will speak later in the service about my personal connections with President Carter. So I will bring a candle of celebration of life and remembrance for him, for his work and his legacy. We hope to honor President Carter in more significant ways in the weeks to come. But for now, I invite us all to pause for a moment of silence as I light the candle of celebration and remembrance. Amen, shalom, salam. Peace be unto the memory of a great person. And now we have our presentation of this week in Unitarian Universalist history with Richard Cummins.
Thank you, Dan. Good morning and Happy New Year. For the week of December 30th through January 5th, I've selected 2 items to share with you this morning. On January 1st, 1735, the patriot Paul Revere was born in Boston. Boston's leading silversmith, he was said to have participated in the Boston Tea Party, which had occurred in 1773, after the British Parliament gave the East India Company a monopoly on sales of tea. Revere was official courier to Congress from the Massachusetts Provincial Assembly and went in that capacity to carry the message that General Gage was going to attack the Concord Supply Depot. A key political organizer in revolutionary Boston, his politics were Whig, and in 1765 he became a Son of Liberty. Later he was a Federalist. After the Revolutionary War, Revere resumed his career as a craftsman. He supplied materials for the construction of the USS Constitution, Old Ironsides, and made the copper plates for the boilers of Robert Fulton's steamboats. In addition to work as a silversmith, he started a foundry for casting bells, which became the Revere Copper and Brass Company, and he was a leading member of Second Church in Boston, Unitarian, and paid annual rent of 15 pounds sterling on his pew. Both he and his wife, Rachel Walker Revere, were active members. He died on May 10, 1818. And on January 3rd, in 1841, Herman Melville sailed out of New Bedford, Massachusetts, as a crew member of the whaling vessel Acushnet, commencing the 2-year tour of the Pacific that resulted in the classic American novel and my favorite book, Moby Dick. He was a member of All Souls Church in New York City. Incidentally, that was the first Unitarian church in New York City, and it was founded in 1819. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. This morning, Emerson is celebrating a turning service, which is celebrated here every year, normally in early January, where we hold dear events of the past year and celebrate the passing, the turning of the wheel, losses and gains, joys and concerns, turnings which are the life of every congregation. They are the breath that fills our lungs. They are the blood that flows through our veins. They are the marrow that fills our bones. It is in sharing them with consciousness that we can bring them into this community for joint and mutual celebration. It is in sharing them that we also make them sacred and holy, not only to us as individuals, but to this community. A beloved community where all of us are, as a people and our experiences, are held, honored, and celebrated. So we begin our annual turning service. We begin this special service, as we do each service, by hearing words from one of the 6 sources of Unitarian Universalism. Today, we have words from the Jewish Bible, the Torah, and the books which follow, the book of Ecclesiastes in the Hebrew Bible. It's a very popular passage that was made into the song by the Byrds many years ago, and I'm sure that all of us know the words, but I would ask you to hear them once again in this turning service celebration, maybe from a new perspective. For everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to harvest what is planted, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to cast away stones, but also a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, a time to refrain from embracing, a time to seek and find, and a time to lose, a time to rend, and a time to sow and mend, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, but also a time for peace. For everything there is a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. And now, with our chalices lit and our hearts and minds centered, I would ask that you join your voices as you may, and if you're at home, go ahead and sing with us as well. And if you would like to stand, you are comfortable doing so, or you may stay seated. But please help us raise our voices and sing together as you can. Our opening hymn. All who participated. As Ed has written this service for us, sometimes as part of our service we tell a story. This story is always relevant to the service and helps people hear the message of the service in a different way. Today our story is the fall of Freddie the Leaf, first told in 1982 by Leo Buscaglia. It begins. Spring had passed, and so had summer.
Freddie the Leaf had grown large. His midsection was wide and strong, and his 5 extensions were firm and pointed. He had first appeared in spring as a small sprout on a rather large branch near the top of a tall tree. Freddie was surrounded by hundreds of other leaves, just like himself, or so it seemed. Soon he discovered that no 2 leaves were alike, even though they were on the same tree. Alfred was the leaf next to him, Ben was the leaf on his right side, and Claire was the lovely leaf overhead. They had all grown up together. They had learned to dance in the spring breezes, bask lazily in the summer sun, and wash off in the cooling rains.
But it was Daniel. I didn't write this. It was Daniel who was Freddie's best friend. He was the largest leaf on the limb and seemed to have been there before anyone else. It appeared to Freddie that Daniel was also the wisest among them. It was Daniel who told them that they were part of a tree. It was Daniel who explained that they were growing in a public park. It was Daniel who told him that the tree had strong roots which were hidden in the ground below. He explained about the birds who came to sit on their branch and sing morning songs. He explained about the sun, the moon, the stars, and the seasons. What a know-it-all.
That's a Daniel. Freddie loved being a leaf. He loved his branch, his light leafy friends, his place high in the sky, the wind that jostled him about, the sun rays that warmed him, the moon that covered him with soft white shadows. Summer had been especially nice. The long, hot days felt good, and the warm nights were peaceful and dreamy. There were many people in the park in the summer. They often came and sat under Freddie's tree. Daniel told him that giving shade was part of his purpose.
What's a purpose? Freddie had asked Daniel.
A reason for being, Daniel had answered. To make things more pleasant for others is a reason for being. To make shade for old people who come to escape the heat of their homes is a reason for being. To provide a cool place for children to come and play. To fan with our leaves the picnickers who come to eat on checkered tablecloths. These are all reasons for being.
Freddie especially liked the older people. They sat so quietly on the cool grass and hardly ever moved. They talked in whispers of times past. The children were fun too, even though they sometimes tore holes in the bark of the tree or carved their names into that tree. Still, it was fun to watch them move so fast and to laugh so much. But Freddie's summer soon passed. It vanished on an October night. He had never felt it so cold. All the leaves shivered with the cold. They were coated with a thin layer of white, which quickly melted and left them with dew and sparkling in the morning sun.
Again, it was Daniel who explained that they had experienced their first frost, the sign that it was fall and that winter would soon come. Almost at once, the whole tree, in fact, the whole park was transformed into a blaze of color. There was hardly a green leaf left. Alfred had turned a deep yellow. Ben had become a bright orange. Claire had become a blazing red. Daniel a deep purple, and Freddie was red and gold and blue. How beautiful they all looked. Freddie and his friends had made their tree a rainbow.
But Freddie had to ask, why did we turn different colors when we're all on the same tree?
Each of us is different. We've had different experiences. We've faced the sun differently. We've cast shade differently. Why should we not have different colors? Daniel said matter-of-factly. Daniel told Freddie that this wonderful season was called fall.
But then, one day, a very strange thing happened. The same breezes that in the past had made them dance began to push and pull them from their stems, almost as if they were angry. This caused some of the leaves to be torn from their branches and swept up in the wind, tossed about and dropped softly to the ground. All the other leaves became frightened. What's happening? What's happening? They asked each other in whispers.
It's what happens in fall, Daniel told them. It's the times for leaves to change their home. Some people call it to die.
Freddie asked, will we all die?
Yes, Daniel answered. Everything dies, no matter how big or small, how weak or strong. We first do our job. We experience the sun and the moon, the wind and the rain. We learn to dance and to laugh, and then we die.
I won't die, Freddie said with determination. Will you die, Daniel?
Yes, answered Daniel, when it's my time.
When is that? Asked Freddie.
No one knows for sure, Daniel responded.
Freddie noticed that the other leaves continued to fall. He thought it must be their time. He saw that some of the leaves lashed back at the wind before they fell, but others simply let go and dropped quietly. Soon the tree was almost bare. I'm afraid to die, Freddie told Daniel. I don't know what's down there.
We all fear what we don't know, Freddie. It's natural, Daniel reassured him. Yet you were not afraid when spring became summer. You were not afraid when summer became fall. They were natural changes. Why should you be afraid of the season of death?
But does the tree die too? Freddie asked.
Someday, but there's something stronger than tree. It's life. That lasts forever, and we're all part of life.
But where will we go when we die?
No one knows for sure. That's the great mystery.
Will we return in the spring?
We may not, but life will.
Then what has been the reason for all of this? Freddie continued to question. Why were we here at all if we are only to fall and die?
Daniel answered in his matter-of-fact way, it's been about the sun and the moon. It's been about happy times together. It's been about the shade and the old people and the children. It's been about colors in the fall. It's been about the seasons. Isn't that enough?
That afternoon, in the golden light of dusk, Daniel finally let go. He fell effortlessly. He seemed to smile peacefully as he fell.
Goodbye for now, Freddie, he said.
Then Freddie was alone, the only leaf left on his branch. The first snow fell the following morning. It was soft and white and gentle, but it was bitter cold. There was hardly any sun that day, and the day was very short. Freddie found himself losing his color, becoming brittle. It seemed constantly cold, and the snow weighed heavily upon him. And at dawn, the wind came that took Freddie from his branch. It didn't hurt at all. He felt himself float quietly, gently, and softly downward. And as he fell, he saw the whole tree for the first time. How strong and firm the tree was. He was sure that it would live for a long time, and he knew that he had been part of its life, and it made him proud.
Freddie landed on a clump of snow. It somehow felt soft and even warm. In this new position, he was more comfortable than he'd ever been. He closed his eyes and fell asleep. He did not know that spring would follow winter and that the snow would melt into water. He did not know that what appeared to be his useless, dried self would join with the water and serve to make the tree stronger. Most of all, he did not know that there, asleep in the tree and the ground, were already plans for new leaves in the spring.
Our story of Freddie and Daniel is now over, and that brings us to
The beginning. Emerson collects an offering each week, like many other communities of faith, but our offering is not for our church, which is supported by the annual pledges of our members. We collect our Sunday offering to give to others because we know that giving is both a transformative spiritual act and an important way to live our values. 75% of today's offering will go to our January Share the Plate recipient, Justice Forward, which was previously known as the Harris County Drug Court. Justice Forward was founded as a social justice task force in 2003 by members of this church, Emerson. It's since changed its name and expanded its mission, but remains true to its purpose, which is to allow a middle way to keep people whose addictions lead them to commit nonviolent crimes by providing therapeutic rather than criminal justice system solutions. The remaining 25% of today's offering will go to Interfaith Ministries Meals on Wheels, which provides thousands of meals every day to Houston's homebound seniors. You can go to our webpage for online giving, put cash or a check in our offering baskets, which you see at the front and the back, or mail a check to the church. During the offering music, children who attend the religious education classes may follow their teacher at the back.
Thanks to all for your generosity, your support of not only this congregation, but its service to this community. Last year, in his first January here, Reverend Ed had the chance, thanks to Ken, to review some old turning services. He found some words from your Minister Emeritus, Becky Edmondson Lang, to be quite meaningful, so he included them in last year's service, and he has suggested that we include them again here today. He has changed them only slightly to fit this part of the service, a part that celebrates the joys, loves, and successes that have run through the blood of this congregation this past year. And he quotes Reverend Becky from 7 years ago. She wrote, "Birth and death are the two great universals. Each of us is born, each of us dies. There's no escaping either of those truths. But while none of us were conscious participants in our own births, we are, as human beings, often acutely aware of our death as it approaches. Awareness of that mortality, the inevitability of death, can be either a curse or a blessing. A curse if we allow death to describe our living and contain it. A blessing if we forge from that knowledge a greater appreciation of the time that has been given to us. How we regard our ends of life can have a profound impact on how we conduct our lives. Are our lives precious to be cherished moment for moment because each particle of time would never be repeated? Can we regard each life as holy, worthy of honor, because we clearly understand how each life is unique, how we each and everyone else makes an immeasurable contribution to that interdependent web of life which sustains all? In our modern era with the instant global news, we are often acutely aware of how fragile human lives are, how often human life is shortened by disaster and violence, much as we saw in New Orleans this past weekend. The year that has just passed has had its share of both natural and man-made disasters, and which claimed and ended some lives, but forever changed so many more. This community, as with all, knows too well the effect of an angry earth. The hurricanes, the terrible freezes, the floods. Houston and Emerson know how hard that is. And then there are the less understandable man-made disasters. The taking and irrevocable changing of lives for reasons that are often impossible to understand, much less explain. And here we honor those lives needlessly lost around the world. The violence that we know is part of the human genome just won't seem to go away. People in Myanmar, Gaza, Israel, Syria, West Africa, certain areas of Mexico, Ukraine, Ethiopia, Sudan. There are too many to name. And there has not been a continent in the past year where lives were not lost due to man-made disasters of war and violence. And then there are lives which have ended closer to home. To quote a popular song, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody wants to go now. Much like how we entered the world, we can try our darndest to stay here, but in the end, we all reach the other great universal. To quote Reverend Becky further, in such a hope, let us recall in the stillness of this moment those who have died in this past year. Some died quietly, satisfied in their years. A great many died far too soon. Others long after the moment they would have chosen for their ending. To all of them, we are thankful for the moments they shared with us in their journey through life. To all of them, we recommit ourselves to the tasks of healing and affirmation and support of lives worth living. So together now, we will light candles in honor of those who have died, and we will stand in their light once more. If any of you who were affected by the absence of those persons who are named, we would ask you to rise to honor their time with Emerson while Ken lights a candle in their name. Our first remembered person, life to celebrate, is Henry Groppe, who became an ancestor in March. Henry's impact was felt in Emerson, at the First Church, and many other places, but also in the Unitarian Universalist Association and beyond. His generosity, his guidance was invaluable. Another founding member who was recently lost, Max Nelson, who became an ancestor in May. Thank you. In June, psychologist and author Ken Vincent became an ancestor. In November, longtime member Dodie Meeks lost her son Kimball Messer at the age of 64 due to Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS. Those who knew Dodie and Kimball, thank you. It is said that when you speak someone's name in reverence, you are calling their spirit into our presence. I invite you now to stand individually and speak the name of someone for whom you are feeling a loss at this moment, even if it is you, yourself, someone important to you. Please speak their name as loud as you can into this room so that their soul and spirit can be heard and be present with us at an important time. Any names to be brought forward? Yes. Millie Ward, thank you. Andrew, thank you. Rabbi Arnold Shura, thank you. Claudia Kane, thank you. I'm sorry, Suzanne? Bill Funk, thank you. Elizabeth Cochran, thanks, Beverly. We'll get more, excuse me. Yes. Dr. James Kemper. Thank you. Margie Stemple. Dr. Harry Staley. Marnie Armstrong. Lester Van Dyke. We'll get more candles. Sure. Oop, that one went over. I'll get it. There. Okay, Bub. Francis Sylvester. Thank you. Barbara Rosen. I'm sorry, Valerie? Quick, thank you. More candles. We got them. That's okay. We'll get there. Put one here. Okay. Yes. Loden? Vogan Troit. Thank you. Linda? Alan Groman. Thank you. Yes. Paula Olive and Miranda Ann Coffey. Thank you. There you are, Ken. I'm sorry, something Maccabee? Deborah Maccabee. Thank you very much. Oh, over here. Terry Weirs and Greg Gwynn, your cousin. Thank you. Yes. Chester Loy Norris. Iva Jean Norris. Dave Atwood. Okay. It's hard to do that.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. And we light a final candle for all of those who became ancestors this year, whose absences are felt in the hearts of the Emerson community, whose names were not mentioned specifically here today. Here we are. Thank you, Ken. Returning now to the words of Reverend Becky. In the presence of this religious community, we acknowledge all the many turnings of our lives. May we know that although our lives may turn in ways we may only dimly foresee and even may not desire, we are all connected to the circle and spirit of life, which, though in us, is also larger than us and binds us together as one. And now we have a time for meditation as we absorb the meaning and the depth of our feelings with meditation music. Thank you.
Season for every purpose under heaven.
Thank you. I continue with Ed's selection of words by Reverend Becky, edited only slightly. Between the two great eternities of birth and death, all of our lives spin out into the world on the circle of life, turning, even as the seasons of the year advance by the turning of the earth. In the interim between, there is so much to our living, so many occasions for joy and sorrow, for insight and learning, for transformation. As we dance between those two poles of birth and death, there is so much required of us, and yet also so much given to us. There are always tasks, rigorous or easy, in life. There are always gardens that need to be planted, skills sown, the long, hard labors of tenacity, of grace and love. Our lives are always in the process of turning. But some turnings are the occasions for public acknowledgement and celebration. Traditional rites of passage, coming of age, graduation, marriage, union ceremonies. For some of those turnings, there are no traditional rituals to mark their passing, those precious moments of our internal growth, a letting go of what can no longer be, or an embracing of the new, moments difficult to name, but significant turnings nonetheless. In every turning of each person's life, there lies the potential for a new sense of ourselves, for creative transformation. You are invited now to contemplate the significant turnings in your lives during the past year. There's no prescription for what qualifies as a significant turning. Only you yourself can know those events in which the potential for creative transformation may lie, or those events which are special milestones in your own life. We will light a candle now, I'm afraid, for only those specific celebrations that have been brought to our attention, because we're running out of candles. We will celebrate with many folks at Emerson who remember the joy of this community as we celebrated your selection of Reverend Dr. Becky Edmiston Lang as Minister Emeritus, celebrating all of her many years with you. So we light that candle. We celebrate also with many folks at Emerson who are joined in the joy of community as you celebrated together the installation of Ed Prue, your newest minister, with ritual and fellowship. We celebrate and at the same time lament the departure of the Wolf family, especially Dory, who dedicated so much of her love to this congregation. And we wish Dory and her family well on the next part of their journey, wherever the heck they are, whether it be in the woods of New Jersey or Vermont or wherever they choose to bring solar energy to the world. It is said that when you speak someone's name in reverence, you call their spirit into your presence. And I invite you now to stand and speak the name of someone for whom you are feeling joy at this moment, even if it is yourself, someone important to you. Please, as we did before, speak a name into this room so that their soul and their spirit may be present with us at this important time in the life of the congregation. We will light one candle for all of those words, names that are spoken. But please do stand and speak a name if you would like. Surely there's some celebrations that we haven't remembered.
Robin Sickles and Janet Leininger's first grandchild.
A first grandchild for Robin Sickles. Thank you, Ann. Autumn Roberts. Thank you. Ted Olstrom? Ken Philstrom, I'm sorry. Gabrielle Mosada. Rachel Stewart, easier. Thank you. Julia, did you have one? I'm sorry. Baby Magnolia. Thank you. Your wedding. Congratulations, Ken. Yes. Beverly Jimerson. Wow. Okay. Thank you. Adrian Rodriguez. Dr. Adrian Rodriguez. Gracias. Nancy Lip. Where is she? She's here somewhere. Oh, good. Thank you, Stephen. Anyone else? Please do speak out loud. I want to acknowledge Julia Morsher and Ariel and Stephen and those who produced the wonderful celebration of the play a couple of weeks ago. Thank you all for that work. And of course, Artem, yes, Artem, who is so important to all of us. Any others I'm missing? Oh, yes, Beverly, yes. Nora Joyce. Thank you. All right. In the presence of this religious community, we have acknowledged all of the many turnings of our lives. May we know that though our lives may turn in ways that we may only dimly foresee, or even may not desire, we are all connected to the circle and spirit of life, which, though present in us, is also larger than any of us and binds us together as one. We have a short meditation music selection now. Thank you. You will be pleased to know, I think, that when Reverend Ed called me yesterday morning, he said that he had prepared the service pretty well, but there was opportunity for a 10-minute homily at the end. But I'm going to condense that to about 5 minutes because we're near the end of the hour, and we have elaborated a little more than anticipated some of the celebratory aspects. So I will hold myself just a couple of minutes of discussion of turnings. William Strauss and Neil Howe, scholars, devised something called the Strauss-Howe generational theory, a theorized recurring generational cycle in American and Western history. According to their theory, which has become very popular, historical events are associated with recurring generational personas or archetypes. Each generational persona unleashes a new era called a turning, lasting around 21 years, in which a new social, political, and economic climate or mood will exist. And those are part of a larger cyclical cyculum, is what it's called, a long human life, which usually spans around 85 to 90 years. Although some seculae have lasted longer. The theory states that a crisis recurs in American history after every seculum, every 85 or 90 years, which is hopefully always followed by a recovery. During the recovery, institutions and communitarian values are strong. Ultimately, succeeding generational archetypes will try to attack and weaken institutions in the name of autonomy and individualism, which eventually creates a tumultuous political environment that ripens conditions for another crisis. It's my observation, which may be wrong, that we are in the midst of a crisis. My teacher in seminary, Joanna Macy, postulated that there was a great turning coming. A great turning. It's overdue, as far as I'm concerned, but we maybe have to deepen the crisis enough before we can see relief. The generational theory obviously is connected with the naming of the baby boomer generation, the millennial generation, the X generation, and whatever other names have come to pass. But I am fortunate enough now to be approaching, as I turned 75 last week, seeing a full cycle of what has been my human life, my seculum. And many of you have likewise seen a lot since World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, and all the crises, the many crises that we have seen throughout our long lives. But I wanted to observe, in the context of our losing Jimmy Carter finally, after a full year of hospice designation, his commitment to casting that vote for Kamala Harris as one of his final public acts. But Jimmy Carter has been a special presence in my life since I received a letter from him in 1966 when I was starting my senior year of high school. He was starting his campaign for governor of Georgia as a state senator who had been fighting the established political controls of the very right-wing Democratic Party in Georgia at that time. And it was quite it was flattering to me to receive this little half-page computer-generated, I'm sure, typed message asking for my support for his campaign for governor. I wasn't able to do much for Jimmy Carter's campaign for governor in 1966 since I didn't even have a car and I didn't have a lot of resources. My family lived on a farm, and but I was he had selected me, I think, because I'd been elected to the presidency of our student government, the student body. And so he just had my name on a list, and it was just flattering to be asked. Unlike now, where we're flooded with requests for support for political campaigns. So I didn't really respond, but I held Jimmy Carter in my heart. And when I went on to undergraduate school here in Houston, I was separated a lot, but I was aware, because I went back to graduate school at the University of Georgia in 1971 when he was beginning his term as governor there. And I went to see him speak in Atlanta in 1972 while I was still in grad school. But then I went on to law school at the University of Texas during the campaign of 1976. I had just graduated from law school, and I was involved in a very limited way in the campaign for the presidency. I remember election night, I went to the rally, and when the votes were counted, and I was given a golden-plated peanut as a memory from election night in Austin, which was my wife and I, that was our first vote for a winning candidate for president. I didn't have a lot of occasion to be involved with President Carter in any real meaningful way, contributed to the Carter Center, that sort of thing. But in 2006, our friends who were big supporters of the Carter Center, Bill and Evelyn Brown, who are members of our congregation in Georgia, had asked President Carter to pin on the oak leaves of our friend Bill Brown's promotion to colonel in the Army. And they invited us to be with them at the Carter Center. And we got to meet and spend a little time with Jimmy Carter in 2006. So this turning that we know is going on, however slowly and however delayed, from crisis to redemption to a rebuilding of society that we have participated in, and we will do all we can do to promote the return of an enlightened humanity to our people and to our government over the next several years. There's a postulation from Joanna Macy, my teacher, and she says the dimensions of great turning are holding actions in defense of life, transforming the foundations of our common life, and a shift in perception and values. The efforts of all three of those areas must synergize and overlap. What is more important, to stop the harm, to build what we need more of, or to change awareness? She says action in each dimension is necessary and welcome. People working behind the scenes in any of these dimensions are just as important as those who are recognized for their efforts. The dimension of the Great Turning includes the political, legislative, and legal work required to reduce destruction. Direct actions of blockades, boycotts, civil disobedience, and other forms of refusal are also holding actions. Other holding actions are documenting and teaching about the ecological and health effects and damage of the industrial growth society, blowing the whistle on illegal and unethical corporate practices, and, when necessary, direct action or civil disobedience. Work of this kind buys time. It helps some communities, cultures, and ecosystems to survive. But holding actions alone are insufficient for promoting the Great Turning. Along with limiting damage, we need to replace or transform destructive systems and structures. With permaculture, solar power, communities grounded in interconnections across culture, race, and abilities, building bridges with others who are dissimilar from ourselves, and promoting models of community living whenever we can. But when Joanna Macy developed this theoretical framework of the three dimensions of the Great Turning, there is one more dimension that has been suggested: nurturing life. And all of us can do this by raising children and grandchildren with life-affirming consciousness, whenever we can, caring for the elderly and those in need. And that is what we can do. I know that we are part of something much bigger than ourselves, and sometimes we are not in control, and we are not the majority in terms of who's running the show, but we have our role to play. President Carter was a kind of inspiration to many of us, especially to me. keeps me going in times of great worry and great fear. So I hope that he and his life can serve as an inspiration for you as well. Let us join together now as we close the service in our closing hymn. Thank you for your time and your attention today.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and fathers of time. We are daughters of dust and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy and brothers of love. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are.
Thank you. The closing words. On this holiest of mornings here at Emerson, your community, we have been blessed by your presence here in the room or otherwise. We are blessed by the experience of life, love, and loss that you have brought into the room with you. Your experiences make you who you are, and you make with us who we all are. So our experiences as they are shared are foundational to a beloved community. And we must honor them, and we must make them sacred by bringing them into this room and speaking them into the universe. We are grateful for the inspiration of Reverend Ed and his quotations from Emerson's Minister Emerita Becky. We are glad to have her and him with us here today, if only through their words. We are also grateful for your presence this morning. For those of you who have joined us on YouTube after the postlude, we'll be ending the live streaming service. And thank you to all the online attendees. We look forward to hosting you again soon. I would invite, Ken, would you mind extinguishing the chalice for us? And may we, in the course of our week to come, feel the liberating freedom of the religious path that we have chosen to share. May those we worship as our gods welcome us. May they challenge us to live up to our own expectations of ourselves and of our community, wherever and whatever they are. And may the world around us light up so that we might see our way back to clarity and wholeness and bring the great turning. Go forth from this time and this place with courage, with compassion, and with love, and make yourself an example to what the world must have for health, wholeness, and interconnectedness. Amen. Blessed be. May it be so.